You chase after peace, love, success, and recognition as if they were prey slipping through your fingers, and the faster you run, the further they get away. That's the trap of modern life. The more you beg for what you want, the more you scare it away. What you call pursuit is actually an invisible chain, a slavery disguised as ambition. Today's man doesn't live, he survives chasing validation, comfort, and control. Look around. Everyone is rushing, showcasing hollow achievements, displaying a storefront happiness that crumbles as soon as the lights go out. And what remains? Anxiety, dependence, frustration. Desperation doesn't attract love, it doesn't attract peace, it doesn't attract respect. It attracts indifference, failure, and emptiness. Stoicism breaks that cycle. It doesn't ask you to beg or plead. It demands that you stand your ground, that you let go of what you can't control, that you strengthen your mind like an unshakable fortress, and that you remember that true greatness is not shown by chasing after anything, but by standing firm. Whoever masters their patience, their silence, and their detachment doesn't need to chase anything, because they become a magnet that attracts what others beg for. This is not a comforting speech, it's a wake-up call. As long as you keep chasing, you'll be a slave. When you decide to stop and govern yourself, what you long for will come to you. Stay until the end, because you will discover 8 Stoic lessons that will change the way you face life and teach you how to transform the chase into attraction. 1. Make your mind an unshakable fortress. A castle is not built with fragile bricks or weak walls. It is built with solid foundations, with stones that do not yield to the wind or the storm. This is how your mind should be, an unshakable fortress that does not crumble under external pressure or the uncertainty of the future. Because if your mental strength depends on what others say, on what they applaud or deny you, then you do not have a castle, you have a hut that breaks with the first puff of the world. Make your mind a sacred territory that no one can invade without your permission, because in that fortress lies true freedom. Modern society lives enslaved by anxiety precisely because its internal walls are built with external validation. A negative comment, a rejection, a comparison on social networks are enough to crumble someone's security. And when your security depends on external factors, you are doomed to live in a constant state of war because the exterior will never be stable. The fortress of your mind cannot be built with materials you do not control. It must be built with discipline, with self-control, and with the certainty that your worth does not depend on any applause. Stoicism reminds us that the real battle is fought in what we think and how we interpret reality. You can face the same storm as others, but if your mind is trained to resist, that storm does not destroy, it only strengthens. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly, the mind adapts and transforms any difficulty into virtue. That is the essence of an unshakable fortress. It is not about avoiding difficulties, it is about turning them into training for inner strength. A simple example, if someone criticizes you harshly, your reaction shows the quality of your internal walls. Those without strength crumble, feel attacked, consumed by anxiety. Those who have built a mental fortress receive criticism, filter what is useful, and discard what is noise without losing their center. That ability not to let the outside destroy your peace is what distinguishes a free man from a man enslaved by opinion. Make your mind a tidy place. Train it every day as you train your body, because mental strength does not appear by chance, it is forged with practice. Dedicate moments of silence, reflect on your thoughts, question each impulse before letting it drag you. The fortress is built with patience, stone upon stone, thought upon thought, until the external no longer has the power to knock it down. Do not confuse this strength with coldness or indifference, because it is not about living isolated or closing your heart. It is about governing yourself, not reacting like a slave to every stimulus. The fortress does not prevent the wind from blowing, it simply remains standing despite it. That is the difference between a man who desperately pursues peace and another who already inhabits it within himself. Whoever manages to make their mind an unshakable fortress stops running after what they desire, stops begging for recognition, fearing rejection, depending on circumstances. He becomes someone who radiates firmness, who inspires respect without demanding it, who attracts peace because he already holds it within himself. This is the first great Stoic lesson. Before conquering anything outside, you must conquer your own mind, because everything you seek begins and ends in how you think and how you decide to face life. 2. Cultivate active patience. The flowing river does not grow impatient to reach the sea. It moves calmly, crossing stones and detours, without stopping, but also without desperately accelerating. This is how your patience should be, not an excuse to stay still waiting for life to change on its own, but a silent force that drives you to keep moving forward firmly, without anxiety, without useless haste. Active patience is the difference between someone who breaks down from the desperation of wanting immediate results and someone who builds, day after day, with the certainty that everything comes in its time. Modern man has confused patience with weakness. He believes that being patient is to cross his arms, endure injustices, or resign himself to mediocrity. That's why he looks for shortcuts, quick solutions, instant gratifications that solve nothing. He becomes impatient in a line, gets frustrated with a delay, despairs because success does not come at the pace of his anxiety. And by rushing, he loses the ability to sustain processes, to resist tests, and to form character. Lack of patience is the fuel for the anxiety that consumes him and makes him a slave to immediacy. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Patience is an active power, not a passive weight. It means enduring with serenity what you cannot accelerate, while working on what is under your control. It's getting up every day and taking the step that corresponds, even if you don't see immediate results. It's staying firm in your process without giving up due to the impatience of not yet reaping what you sowed. This silent discipline is what distinguishes those who achieve great things from those who abandon halfway. Think of someone who trains their body. They don't gain strength in a single session or discipline in a week. Progress is built slowly, almost imperceptibly, and only noticed after months of consistency. Active patience is what allows to sustain the practice even though the results are not yet visible, because it understands that every day adds up and that every effort accumulates. Those who despair abandon. Those who cultivate patience continue until change becomes inevitable. Active patience also implies control over emotions. When you face a difficulty, the impatient mind demands immediate solutions, screams to escape, sinks into frustration. The patient mind evaluates, observes, makes decisions from calmness, and conserves energy to act with precision. This difference between reacting hastily or responding serenely marks the fate of any situation. But cultivating this virtue requires training. It's not just about waiting, but transforming the wait into conscious action. Learn to breathe deeply when anxiety burns you inside. Set small goals that remind you that moving forward is not always jumping, sometimes it's walking slowly. Active patience is a weapon against the desperation that ruins relationships, projects, and dreams. How many people destroy bonds because they can't stand the pace of the other? How many abandon goals because they don't see immediate results? How many lose peace because they want to control what is not yet ready? The impatient becomes a slave to frustration. The patient becomes a master of his time and energy. When you cultivate active patience, you stop chasing anxiously what you desire. You become someone who moves forward without stopping, but without despairing. 3. Break the dependency on validation. The mirror you chase to confirm your worth always changes shape, cracks, and reflects images that are not real. This is how those who depend on others' approval live, molding themselves according to the eyes of others, fragmenting into versions that never quite fit. This need to be seen, recognized, and applauded turns into an invisible prison that steals freedom and feeds anxiety. Every criticism feels like a blow, and every silence like a rejection, because identity is built on foundations that do not belong to oneself. Society has turned validation into common currency. Social networks, public opinions, constant comparisons, everything pushes to measure personal value according to external reactions. The problem is that these reactions are never stable. Today they applaud you, tomorrow they forget you, the day after tomorrow they criticize you. Living under this swing is to accept that your peace depends on the volatility of the world, and that is the clearest form of emotional slavery. Stoicism offers another view. Your value does not depend on anything external, but on internal coherence. Epictetus summed it up in the idea that it is not things that affect us, but the judgment we make about them. The same applies to recognition. It's not the criticism that hurts you, but your need for it not to exist. It's not indifference that destroys you, but the obsession that they always see you. By breaking that chain, the door opens to a freedom that cannot be snatched away. Living without this dependency does not mean ignoring the world or despising everyone. It means holding your center even when others do not recognize it. It involves listening without crumbling, accepting compliments without them becoming your fuel, acting from your principles even if there is no applause. It is the decision to be true to yourself before being accepted by anyone. Paradoxically, the more you beg for validation, the less respect you get. Need repels because it shows emptiness, fragility, and dependence. Firmness, on the other hand, attracts. Whoever walks sure of their judgment and their values, even if others question them, arouses genuine admiration. Authenticity becomes a magnet much more powerful than any attempt to please everyone. Practicing this lesson requires courage. It means learning to say no when it is expected that you say yes, holding your decisions even if they are uncomfortable, accepting that your path will not be approved by everyone. It demands examining your actions and asking yourself, do I do this because I believe it is right or because I want to be applauded? Every time you choose to please over being authentic, you give away your power. The training begins in the everyday. Do things that you don't share anywhere, small decisions that only you know and that make you respect yourself more. Learn to appreciate a compliment without depending on it, to receive criticism without losing balance. Write it down if necessary and repeat it. My value does not depend on anyone's approval. That phrase, when it becomes a conviction, is a shield that nothing external can penetrate. Breaking the dependency on validation is to regain your freedom. You won't need to run after applause because coherence will already be enough. And from that independence, you will attract more respect than you ever got begging for attention. The noise of others' opinions will become a distant echo, while the voice that really matters, yours, rises clear and firm to guide the course of your life. 4. Train yourself in voluntary discomfort. The strongest metal is not born shiny, it is forged between flames, blows, and pressure. Without fire and hammer, it would remain a weak piece of shapeless matter. The same happens with the mind and character. If you do not go through discomfort, you will never discover your true strength. And in a world that sells comfort as the greatest of treasures, training yourself in discomfort becomes a conscious rebellion against modern slavery. Most people live fleeing from everything that hurts, everything that costs, everything that demands effort. They prefer the immediate, the easy, what does not require patience or discipline. But this obsession to avoid discomfort generates fragility. When the first crisis appears, when life hits without warning, the one who never trained their resilience collapses. Stoicism teaches that voluntary discomfort is not useless suffering. It is preparation. Marcus Aurelius understood it well. The one who trains to accept daily difficulties develops a spirit capable of resisting much larger trials. Sleeping on the floor some nights, resisting the urge to eat for immediate pleasure, exposing oneself to the cold or silence, are examples of practices that seem small but send a powerful message to the mind. I can endure more than I think. I am not a slave to comfort. In daily life, training in discomfort means consciously choosing effort when the body asks for escape. It means getting up early when you want to stay in bed, keeping calm when everything pushes to reaction, facing an uncomfortable conversation instead of running away from it. Every act of voluntary discipline is a reminder that you are the master of yourself and not a slave to your impulses. Modern man seeks peace, success, and recognition, but he pursues them from comfort. He wants a strong body without sweat. He wants respect without sacrifice. He wants love without vulnerability. He wants peace without silence. And this contradiction condemns him to frustration. The one who chooses to train in discomfort, on the other hand, learns that strength is built in each renunciation of immediate pleasure, in each decision to hold on when it would be easier to give up. This is the root of self-respect. Voluntary discomfort is also a weapon against anxiety. When you consciously choose to go through trials that others would avoid, your mind adapts, strengthens, and loses fear of the unexpected. You are no longer terrified of changes or crises because you have trained within yourself the ability to resist. And that training makes life a more predictable terrain. Because what scares the rest for you is just another challenge you can face. Put it into practice concretely. Walk in the rain without running for shelter. Dedicate a day to be without technological distractions. Exercise even though you are tired. Fast for a few hours even if your body demands. These are simple but effective examples that strengthen your character. The goal is not to suffer, it is to remind yourself that you can control your mind, that you are not dominated by every impulse of comfort, that the environment sells as indispensable. Training yourself in voluntary discomfort is to break with the illusion that life must be smooth to be good. It is choosing the fire that forges rather than the rust that destroys. And when your character has gone through trials that others would never face, your presence becomes different. You radiate strength, discipline, and serenity. You no longer need to pursue respect because the world recognizes in you someone who is tempered like the strongest metal, resistant, firm, and free. 5. Practice conscious detachment. Hands that desperately cling to sand end up losing it between their fingers. The harder you try to hold onto it, the faster it slips away. The same happens with people, achievements, material things, and illusions of control. Obsessive attachment does not guarantee security, it guarantees suffering. Conscious detachment, on the other hand, is not indifference. It is the wisdom of understanding that nothing truly belongs to us and that clinging only multiplies anxiety. Modern man lives surrounded by invisible chains that he himself feeds. He clings to a relationship for fear of loneliness, clings to a job that destroys his health, clings to objects that never fill the internal void. And the more he depends on these things, the more fragile he becomes, because all it takes is for the world to change for his peace to crumble. Stoicism teaches us that everything external is borrowed. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, life itself is a temporary loan, and what you possess today may no longer be yours tomorrow. Understanding this should not generate sadness, it should generate freedom. If you know that nothing belongs to you completely, you can enjoy what you have without obsessing over retaining it. Conscious detachment is, in essence, the practice of letting go without fear and loving without chains. Practicing detachment does not mean rejecting what life gives you. It means not depending on it for peace. You can enjoy a relationship without making it your only source of happiness. You can work towards your goals without letting the outcome define your worth. You can have material possessions without them having power over your identity. Conscious detachment transforms the way you relate to everything. It ceases to be a necessity and becomes a choice. Attachment is also the origin of much of the anxiety. You want things to be permanent when life is movement. You want people to stay when we are all just passing through. You want circumstances not to change when change is the only certainty. This struggle against the inevitable only exhausts you. Instead, when you practice conscious detachment, you learn to accept the natural flow of life. You understand that what arrives is a gift and what leaves is part of the process. A clear example is in love. Whoever loves from attachment seeks to control, demands guarantees, lives in constant fear of loss. Whoever loves from detachment enjoys the presence of the other without intending to possess them, because they know that true respect is born from freedom. The same happens with success. Whoever pursues it obsessively never enjoys it, because they always fear losing it. The training to cultivate this virtue begins with simple acts. Get rid of things you keep for fear of losing something of yourself, when in reality they mean nothing. Learn to be silent without the need to fill every moment with distractions. Accept that you will not control all reactions or all destinies. Remind yourself every day that the only true possession is your mind, and that everything else can change from one moment to the next. Practicing conscious detachment is choosing freedom over obsession. It is letting go with serenity instead of holding on with anxiety. And when you manage to live in this way, something powerful happens. You stop scaring away what you long for and start attracting it. Because people, opportunities, and peace naturally come to those who do not chase them desperately, but to those who receive them calmly, without chains, and with inner firmness. 6. Guard your energy like a kingdom. A kingdom that does not take care of its walls soon falls into the hands of the enemy. No matter how many soldiers it has or how many riches it hides, if its doors are open and anyone comes and goes at will, sooner or later it will be in ruins. The same happens with your energy. If you do not set boundaries, if you allow anyone to steal your time, your thoughts, or your calm, you will end up empty, worn out, and without strength for what really matters. Your energy is your greatest treasure, and protecting it is a duty, not an option. Modern man is exhausted not because he works too much, but because he wastes his energy on useless battles. He consumes himself in discussions that lead nowhere, in worries about things he cannot control, in relationships that only drain his peace. And while he seeks peace and success, all he finds is chronic fatigue, because he gave his strength to causes that never deserved his attention. Stoicism teaches that not everything deserves a response. Not everything deserves your reaction. Not everything deserves your energy. Epictetus said that external things have no power over you unless you give it to them. True discipline consists in choosing where to focus your strength and in which battles to participate. Protecting your energy does not mean running away from life. It means knowing how to distinguish between what builds you and what destroys you. Think of it this way: every day you wake up with a limited amount of energy, like gold coins in a chest. If you spend them on complaints, on arguments, on pleasing everyone, on anger over small things, at the end of the day you will have nothing to invest in what really matters. But if you learn to manage those coins, if you choose well where to put your attention, your energy grows, multiplies, and becomes the basis of your strength. Protecting your energy involves setting clear boundaries. It means saying no when something invades your peace, even if others do not understand. It means cutting off conversations that only sow negativity. It means moving away from environments that drain your spirit and surrounding yourself with people who strengthen you. You cannot live like a kingdom without walls and expect to remain standing. Respect begins with yourself, And only when you protect your energy, others learn to respect it. It also involves watching what you consume mentally. I'm not just talking about food for the body. I'm talking about what you let into your mind. News that generates fear, comparisons that poison your self-esteem, repetitive thoughts that only wear out. Each stimulus is like a visitor in your kingdom, and you decide whether to open the door or close it. Letting in mental garbage is the equivalent of opening the wall for looters. A practical exercise is to take an inventory of everything that takes energy from you in your day-to-day. Observe which conversations leave you exhausted, which thoughts repeat senselessly, which activities steal more than they give. Then, little by little, start reducing that unnecessary expense. It's not about living in isolation, but about learning to manage your vital force intelligently. Protecting your energy like a kingdom is not selfishness, it's responsibility. Because without energy you cannot grow, you cannot help anyone, you cannot sustain your goals or your peace. Anxiety often comes from spending strength on what does not depend on you. Serenity, on the other hand, arises when you take care of your walls and consciously choose where to invest your attention. And when you manage to live in this way, you stop chasing peace and respect, because both come alone when they see that you govern your own inner kingdom with firmness and authority. 7. Master the word with precision. The word is like a sword. In inexperienced hands, it injures uncontrollably, causes irreparable damage, and becomes a dangerous weapon against the one who wields it. But in the hands of a disciplined warrior, it becomes a tool of precision, capable of cutting only what is necessary and defending firmly without wasting energy. The same happens with language. He who speaks without thinking becomes a slave to his own mouth. But he who masters the word governs his environment with respect and authority. The modern man lives trapped in noise. He talks too much, promises without fulfilling, argues to impose, opines about everything even though he understands nothing. Every word thrown carelessly weakens his credibility and erodes his strength. When someone does not measure what they say, they transmit insecurity, and their voice becomes an empty echo that no one respects. On the other hand, he who masters the word transmits serenity, inspires confidence, and projects strength even in silence. Stoicism teaches that you should not speak more than necessary or say what does not edify. Seneca warned that often silence is more powerful than any speech. Mastering the word does not mean speaking little. It means speaking with precision. It means choosing words as a craftsman chooses his tools, knowing that each phrase can build or destroy, attract respect or sow distrust. Look at what happens in a discussion. The one who lets himself be carried away by anger, shouts, insults, and wears out, but rarely convinces. The one who controls his words, responds calmly, uses clear phrases, does not enter into provocations, and without needing to raise his voice, imposes respect. Mastering the word is mastering the emotion that supports it. It's not just about what you say, but about the silent force behind your words. Practicing this discipline requires 3 steps. Think before you speak with precision, and be silent when necessary. Thinking before speaking is asking yourself if what you will say builds or destroys, if it is true or just impulse. Speaking with precision is to avoid unnecessary adornments, empty phrases, or impossible promises. And being silent when necessary is remembering that not every provocation deserves a response, and that sometimes silence is the strongest statement of all. He who masters the word also understands the power of listening. Because speaking with precision does not mean monopolizing the dialogue. It means knowing how to listen to respond with wisdom. The one who listens attentively gains clarity, and his response becomes more accurate. On the other hand, the one who interrupts and jumps ahead reveals anxiety and lack of control. The precise word is born from attentive silence. A useful exercise is to train restraint. When you feel the impulse to respond instantly, breathe and delay your reaction a few seconds. This space cuts the power of the impulse and allows you to choose more clearly what you will say. Another exercise is to reduce your words to the essential. Communicate what you want in the least possible amount of phrases, without unnecessary adornments. This economy of language generates strength and authority. The mastery of the word also means avoiding waste. Every unfulfilled promise, every word thrown without thinking is like a hole in the wall of your credibility. If you say you will do something, do it. If you are not sure, do not promise. He who aligns word and action becomes someone trustworthy, and trust is a powerful form of respect. Mastering the word with precision is more than an art, it is a life strategy. 8. Inhabit the present firmly. The clock never stops, but most people are trapped at its two extremes. Some are consumed by looking back, carrying guilt, nostalgia, or memories that no longer exist. Others get lost in the future, obsessed with what has not yet arrived, imagining scenarios that feed fear and anxiety. And in this dance between what has already died and what has not yet been born, the present slips away like water running through the hands. Inhabiting the now firmly is the only way to reclaim the life you truly possess. Modern man seeks peace and success by chasing future illusions, as if happiness were a prize that only appears after getting more money, more recognition, or more affection. But that race never ends, because when he achieves something, he is already desiring the next thing. The mind never calms down, it always demands more, and that perpetual hunger makes him a slave to the unattainable. Stoicism teaches that you only have power over this instant. Marcus Aurelius repeated it. You do not live yesterday or tomorrow, only this brief moment. Everything else is an illusion. When you choose to be present, you stop begging in time for what is already in your hands. And it's not about living with indifference towards the future or erasing memory. It's about putting your heart into what you can do now, without being distracted by what you can't control. Inhabiting the present firmly means that you do not postpone your peace until tomorrow, nor drag your pain from yesterday into today. It means that you work on what is in front of you with full attention, without hurry and without dispersion. The man who lives like this attracts respect because he projects calm and security. A clear example is in conversations. Whoever inhabits the present listens with real attention, looks into the eyes, responds clearly. That presence has more power than 1,000 speeches. On the other hand, whoever is distracted thinking about their past or what they will do later conveys emptiness, as if they were not really there. People feel that absence and move away because no one wants to be with someone who is never there. Practicing this lesson requires discipline. Start with the simplest. When you eat, eat without distractions, without looking at a screen. When you work, focus on the task without jumping from one thing to another. When you speak, listen before responding. And when your mind tries to drag you to the past or the future, remind it firmly, the only real thing is here. This repetition trains your attention until it becomes your greatest weapon against anxiety. Inhabiting the present does not mean to stop having goals. It means to move towards them without getting lost in obsession. It is to work consistently today, knowing that the future is built with the sum of each moment lived firmly. It is to accept that the past cannot be changed, but it can teach you. It is to recognize that the only thing you truly possess is this second, and that wasting it is losing your life. When you inhabit the present firmly, you stop being a slave to anxiety for what you cannot control. You no longer chase peace because you find it right here. You no longer run after recognition because your genuine presence attracts respect without needing to beg for it. And you no longer run from emptiness because you learn to fill each moment with awareness and purpose. That is the last great lesson. The now is not a bridge to get to something else. It is the place where everything begins and where true freedom is always found. Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, comment "I am Stoic" as our secret signal to know that you're a true student of Stoicism. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and remember, keep cultivating your Stoic mind.